Hear me out. Surroundead IRONMAN challenge. No traders, no buying or selling anything of any kind. Loot settings are taken from Nightmare mode, so basically just insanely and extremely rare loot for everything. Placing backpacks within backpacks is disabled. I can only use items that I loot or craft myself. Oh, and it's permadeath. Alright, let's get to it. Oh wait, pause. I need to clear something up before we get started. All of this was recorded on version 0.7.1G, which, at the time of recording in the middle of March 2026, is the standard stable version of the game. I know the 0.8 patch is on the experimental branch for testing, but I'm opting to wait until it's released on stable before I make any videos on it. I'm sure it'll be awesome once it's released, but I would hate to show it off when it's still being balanced and fine-tuned. Sound good? Dope, let's go. Meet Mike Auxjack. A blue face wearing, septum piercing, having no good nobody ready to boogie. First things first, we need supplies. And what better place to start my journey than the house I spawned next to? Hang on, I think this might be the first spawn point I had in the Start With Nothing video. And funny enough, this kicked off almost exactly the same way, with a plethora of zombies sprinting on over as soon as I kicked the trash around. While I did manage to loot a few pieces of food, I was eventually steamrolled by a few sprinters and their friends, forcing me to abandon the house and flee to the open fields, where I shredded my pants for some more rags. Okay, I think it's worth making a quick checklist of things I need. For starters, a weapon. A knife is good, but anything over like 2 zombies means I'm completely screwed, as you just saw. I'll need a regular axe and a pickaxe to chop down trees and smash some rocks with. Maybe even a bit of stone as well. Those are all harvestable materials though. I'll also need scrap metal, which can be obtained by looting destroyed vehicles. And when it comes to looting, I'll need sets of tools, lockpicks, and guns. I can eventually craft my own ammo, but it doesn't really matter all that much unless I have a weapon to fire said bullets. Now thankfully, despite having some pretty rough loot settings, I was able to land a GPS and a pair of pants with 8 additional inventory slots. The GPS was the big win for me though, since it means I don't have to triangulate my position by locating various POIs on the map and then, I don't know, aligning that with the fucking stars or something. Later that afternoon, while looting another lone house, I found a compass and baseball bat. With that gear, I think it's time to hit up an abandoned fire station. There's one just to the south of me, and the hopes are that I can find a fire axe in one of the emergency cases inside. Along the way, I found Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, which was holding a duffel bag and a generator for me, along with some tools. A massive win for me, all thanks to pilot Sumting Wong and co-pilot Wee Tu Lo. And if you don't get that reference, then Ralphie May truly did die for nothing. Anyway, further along the path, I found and killed 2 deer. I'll need a campfire in order to cook the meat though, and to keep true to the IRONMAN challenge, I won't be allowing myself to use the workbenches and cooking stations at the safe camps. Fast forward a few hours, and welcome to the fire station. It's overrun with acidic zombies, sprinters, and regular old shamblers. Before pushing into the actual perimeter though, I thought it'd be a good idea to spend my sole skill point on the health regen trait, which in theory would literally save my life since I only had 2 rags left. What I failed to realize, however, was that my thirst was below the required threshold, meaning I couldn't regen health until I found some water to drink. To make matters worse, I finally cleared the area and pushed inside, only to realize I'd been bamboozled. Not only was this not a fire station, but I also didn't land anything valuable from looting the place. I mean, aside from a small toolbox container. Now, I do remember there being one near the airfield in the south, but that's a good day's travel away. On the bright side, I'm happy to admit I was wrong when it came to my health replenishing. It looks like it was working after all. I was still about a third of the map away from the airfield by the time the sun set, and given that I don't have a flashlight or night vision goggles, I opted to wait up on top of a rock until I could see again. By the grace of game design though, I was blessed with a blood moon, and since that's not implemented in this version yet, I don't have to worry about being ripped to shreds, and instead was just gifted a bright red moon, illuminating the streets and making it possible to travel at night without the risk of getting taken from behind. At least while outside. This is what the interiors looked like. Inside one of those houses, though, I ended up finding a tent, meaning I'm one step closer to my ultimate plan of building the Surroundead Skid Row. I'm still dehydrated though, and the game knows this, taunting me with canned goods offering hunger and thirst, but no can opener to access the food with. Continuing south, I got lucky again and found a pickaxe sitting in some trash at an abandoned camp. Now I just need to find a fire axe and we'll be all set. After taking a few minutes to collect some rock and stone, I continued south. I'm down to under 20% hydration, but there's a diner directly in front of me, so once the sun rises, I plan to raid it in hopes of finding anything other than an empty water bottle. Directly next to the diner, I found a wrecked helicopter holding a few water purification tablets. Normally, I would just sell these to a trader, but given that trading is off the table, I actually might get some use out of these for once. It turns out, the only things I found here were a few strength magazines and a sledgehammer that I couldn't even fit into my inventory. My thirst is now below 10%, but there's a crashed military airplane in the east, and I'm hoping that'll have an MRE or maybe a canteen or something that'll save me. Kind of a last-ditch effort, but at this point there really isn't much I have left to lose.
A few moments later.
Well, never mind, because not only is the airplane completely overrun with zombies, but I'm also only at 1% hydration. Now, I do have a few empty water bottles that can be filled, so I changed course and started sprinting to the lake in the southeast. And for the first time in over 150 hours of playtime, I got to use purification tablets instead of just turning around and selling them. This brought me back up to 60 hydration. And fun fact, you can eat canned cat food without a can opener, so I was even able to recover a decent chunk of my hunger that way as well. Just next to the lake, I found an abandoned campsite and subsequently got to work clearing it out in the hopes of finding either a fire axe or some water. I'd like to say this was all going smoothly, but this is an early access $12 solo dev game, and because of that, you're prone to walk directly into blocked off dead zones while doing things like climbing hills to escape zombies, resulting in this. I was off to such a good start too. The joys of permadeath. On to the next run. Same settings, but this time with off-brand Jackie Moon leading the way. Much like the first run, I've got a whole checklist worth of shit to find, consisting of a pickaxe, fire axe, wood, food, scrap metal, tents, nails, tools, all that fun stuff. Right off the bat, I managed to loot a dirty water bottle off a corpse, which, if nothing else, will help me survive a few extra minutes. Unlike last time though, I have no idea where I am. So, the first objective for me was to hit a POI and find it on the map. Despite almost dying, I did finally manage to trigger a map point for a set of warehouses, which slotted me at the far north end of the map. Better than nothing, but definitely not ideal. Inside said warehouse, I looted the sledgehammer, which works the same as a pickaxe. So, as long as I don't fuck up again, I can check that off the list. While it can be used for melee, it's got a ridiculously slow swing speed and burns through stamina. Like, for example, the first indicator swing of the heavy attack burns through nearly all of your stamina, so it's best to just straight up avoid that, while the regular swing accounts for over 10% of your stamina per swing. Up ahead, though, I found a set of houses, and after smacking all the zombies around, looted the place for a shotgun, a skirt, and a medkit. Continuing down that same road, I found a sole abandoned building with an ambulance next to it. It's in pretty bad shape and only has 4% fuel remaining, but it works, and that's all that matters. Once I'd cleared most of the area, I pushed inside, only to find this. Jackpot. After Caitlyn Jennering a deer, I'm able to use both the axe and sledge to start stockpiling wood and stone, which can then be used to craft and place a campfire. I'll need nails, though, in order to craft a workbench. I do have a few empty water bottles, along with that one dirty one, though, so I continued west towards the nearest pond, figuring that would be a decent spot to base up for now, since I'd be right next to the water. With a campfire placed, I can purify my water bottles, cook the deer meat, and even better, pick up the campfire once I'm done with it. It only takes up 2 slots as well. All that's left to do now is wait out the night. So to keep myself occupied, I mined up more stone and chopped down a shit ton of trees. Since I need nails and tools to craft pretty much anything important, I figured my best chance to come across any of those would be at a construction site. and thankfully for me, there's a big-ass site nearby, just waiting for me to loot it. So, over the course of the next few hours, I worked my way through the dozen or so zombies in the area, and got to work looting the trash for some cement and junk, unable to find anything of value. To make matters worse, I got hit with a fucking hurricane-level storm that, aside from giving me tinnitus, made it practically impossible to continue exploration. Because of this, I climbed up to the second floor of an open building, found a spot that was marked as indoors, and waited for the storm to pass. By mid-morning, the rain had cleared and the sun was back out, which meant it was time to get back to looting. This meant more acidic zombies, more concrete, but this time, also a gas can, which I immediately dumped into the ambulance to refuel it. I bet I could hit a wicked trick shot off that if I had Lightweight Pro right now. You guys think Grums is pissed that he can't save your character's skirt in this game, or is he still drinking breast milk from the Blizzard offices? What? What the fuck just happened? Rewind that real quick. Okay, so the ladder is in a different location. And once you reach the top, your character just lets go and falls all the way down to the bottom. Now that's fine on normal mode, but on permadeath, I just lost a run because the top ladder was in a different spot than the rest of the climb up. I just want to build a base, man. Can I get one fucking win, please? That'd be great. Anyway, rip Jackie Moon, and welcome to the stage, Blake Bortles. It's like that dope-ass Jaguars quarterback, Blake Bortles, but I swapped the first letter of his first and last name around, so, you know, he's different. Alright, third time's the charm, right? I mean, hopefully. One of these times I'm gonna spawn in, and it's not even gonna be raining, and I can't wait for that. You know, it's kinda sad that I know exactly where I am, based off of a single house. That's the lone cottage, in the very northeast of the map. See? Told ya. Inside the cottage, I managed to find a baseball bat and another knife, so I grabbed both before heading back out into the world. There's a radio tower nearby that gifted me a GPS and a backpack the last time I looted it, so I made a beeline over to it in hopes of having a similar result. Along the way, I scooped up a pair of aviators and a scarf so I can fit in with the Hollywood elites. For those of you who have played on the 0.8 test branch, is the storm audio fixed yet? Because this is 55 master volume with a minus 13 decibel adjuster in OBS, and it's still peaking and overbearing. Hey, you see, you never doubt the radio tower. After swapping my bat for another one I found on a corpse, I continued south, hitting up a makeshift survivor camp. All I managed to find here was some oil, but thankfully it was just a few drops. I thought I was gonna get drone striked for a second there. Just next to the camp, though, I found something better than oil. I found a well. And even though a well fills water bottles with dirty water, you can still drink it freely. Bet you didn't think about that when you were playing this, but now that you know it exists, you'll never be able to unsee it. You can drink it outright with no ailment, but if you fill a water bottle with that same water, it's dirty. Gross. Anyway, welcome to Chester Lake. The only important bits I have from here is that I hit level 2, and the fact that I got 2 of these big-ass water jugs. Oh, and a golf cart, but that ran out of gas in like 5 seconds, so I don't really count that. Well, I say that, but over at the mechanic shop I found 2 gas cans, meaning, you know, you can use it. Okay. Moving on. None of that even matters because, you know, I can find things like a dune buggy that I totally didn't just steal from a group of friendly scabs. Further south, I found the Pine Road neighborhood, consisting of not enough loot and more than enough enemies. But it gives me something to do while I wait for morning, so let's get to it. While looting the neighborhood, I did manage to find a tent, so once again, Skid Row Dream lives on. Continuing south, I came across my first bears of the playthrough before looting another radio tower. While trying to leave though, I, for whatever reason, tried to run over the bears thinking it'd make for easy kills. But all it ended up doing was destroying my dune buggy. and while I did manage to kill both bears, there's no denying that traveling at night while on foot is significantly more dangerous than just sitting in the dune buggy. Though, I guess it's not like I had much of a choice. As the sun rose the next morning, I found myself staring down a bunker behind an old abandoned house. But more importantly, I found a fishing pole. Now, this bunker is empty, but to my knowledge, a lot of these have been entirely overhauled in the 0.8 update, so I'm excited to see what they've turned into. Anyway, after finding a set of random tools in the farm to the south, I found myself back on the road again, hunting for my next big score. And speaking of next big score, how about a bandit assault camp? Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet, right? Now, I think this is one of the random chance open world events that I just happened to stumble into, but that's not going to stop me from taking advantage of it. The zombies, for the most part, seem to be entirely focused on the bandits, so while they focused on killing each other, I went ahead and snuck up behind any unsuspecting bandits to take them out. It almost looks like two camps spawned next to each other, so that was really cool to see. One of the bandits even had some whiskey on him, so I combined those with a few pieces of cloth to make 2 Molotovs. After eating all of my canned food, I followed the path down until I reached a small pond. Once here, I chugged a ton of dirty water, which, if you only do the big water jugs, 30 hydration for 15 health is 100% worth it every time, especially considering that's only 3 bandages worth of damage. Now fully satiated, I returned to my quest of finding a fire axe. Now, based solely on this video, I do know of one location with an emergency case, but it's on the other side of the map, so doesn't really help my cause here. That being said, did I think I would find one at a lighthouse? No. But I've never been here before, and I'm not about to pass up an opportunity when it presents itself. No fucking way. Not wanting to repeat the last death, I opted to not explore the lighthouse, and instead just take the win and steal the fire axe locked to the base of it. Now time to find a base location. While I walked though, I went ahead and redeemed 4 trait points to grab the dodge roll and double my crit chance. Here's what I'm thinking of basing with though. This little pond next to the airfield. It'll give me infinite water and food from fishing, and I think a water base might be cool if I can pull it off. Just next to the pond though, I found another group of bandits. This time, they were able to clear out the zombies instead of being overrun, which put me on the defensive. Thankfully, the sole zombie that I managed to kite inside was holding a hunting rifle, my absolute favorite weapon in Surroundead. So, equipped with that, I took on the wounded bandits, sniping them from the side of the house before looting their corpses. This netted me a few more Molotovs and some ammo, but nothing too crazy outside of that. Remember when The Walking Dead tried to do this, but it just spelt out "don't dead open inside"? Good times, man. Anyway, look what I looked into. A whole ass Humvee. And better yet, dinner. Okay, it's not the best base location, but it'll do for now. I do have a final location that I'd like to base up at eventually, maybe, but it's a bit out of the way, and I don't have enough supplies to pull it off at the moment. After a bit more tree chopping and stone mining, I finally got to place a campfire down, purify my water, and cook up all the meat I'd been holding in my pocket for like 2 days. Surely it's still perfectly fine and not at all rotted into my pants. With my hunger and thirst taken care of, I threw down my tent and crammed all the extra loot inside of it. Currently, I'm still stuck on needing nails before I can do anything productive, so it looks like it's back to looting. Now, I could bring the Humvee with, but given that it's like 15% condition, I really didn't want to risk losing it so early, so I left it back and ran on down to the lower portion of the map. This is where the fire station can be found, which means I get another fire axe. But better than that, I noticed that, there's no fucking zombies in this town. I'm not entirely sure why, but they're just avoiding this small town. Probably in favor of hanging out in the airfield, but still, I just wasn't used to seeing a fully empty town in this game. I'm not complaining though, because look what else I found. Okay, I see why it's vacant now. Obviously, the Coyote soldiers were a pretty big step up from normal bandits. They're rocking tactical gear, stronger weapons, and to my knowledge, no melee. They're all rocking AR-15s, shotguns, and sniper rifles. But through the power of bandage spamming, a Molotov toss, and the ability to hit half my shots, I was able to slowly and methodically eliminate soldier after soldier. The big payoff came with looting the dead bodies. Because they're rocking better gear and weapons, their loot pools also reflect that. For example, on top of all the ammo on their bodies, I was able to grab a military helmet, some night vision goggles, a Spec Ops plate carrier with double the protections of the body armor I'd been rocking, a military intel laptop, 4 MREs, and some weapon mags and other oddities. Not to mention the roadblock that the soldiers were guarding, which landed me another gun, a scope for the hunting rifle, and some more ammo. Back at the pond, I used the vehicle repair kit on the Humvee, dropped the rest of my shit off at the tent, and then, for the first time this playthrough, confidently drove a somewhat repaired vehicle. So that was nice. While driving around, I came across this place, the Airfield Police Station. Inside, you can find a variety of military lockers and cabinets to loot. But more importantly than ammo and clothes, I found a single nail. To follow up the Airfield Police Station, I raided the regular police station. It's a little less cool, but it's got another crashed helicopter next to it, so checkmate, atheists. And guess what's waiting for me inside? Did you guess a fire axe? Because that's what you would expect to find at a police station, right? You know, your firefighters and police officers, you're famously known for being best buds. You just watch the NYPD Fire Department yearly hockey match, if you need an example. Anyway, while ripping the Humvee through the streets, I drove directly into another set of bandits, catching them off guard, while losing about half my Humvee's health in the process. Was it worth it? Absolutely fucking not. But you know what? It looked dope as shit, so... Moving on to the next POI. I found myself staring down a construction site, and thinking this would be a great place to find the remaining nails, got to work looting. So, naturally, it's a construction site, and I found some nails, right? No. Got some random tools and 2 tents, though. While driving back that night, I ran into a chaotic nightmare. Directly in front of me lies a random open-world event for a coyote convoy. But it spawned near a bandit raid, leading to both of them just sorta unloading on each other while also being mobbed by zombies. So, to throw myself into the mix, I drove the Humvee up to the top of the hill, pulled out the hunting rifle, and started winging shots back at them. After spending the last few hours driving around, looting all these POIs, getting into gunfights, it was finally time to return back to camp, and not only expand said camp, but organize it all. I've got 4 tents now, so I set 1 for melee weapons, 1 for firearms and ammo, 1 for crafting supplies, and then the original I kept for food and water. I think that's a good start for now, but we're still sitting at the same spot we were before. If I want to craft anything, I need 3 more nails. And while I could go to a safe camp and craft them at one of the established benches, to me, that just kinda goes against the core principle of the challenge. So instead, it's back to more looting. But once again, without a car, because, the Humvee has, it's seen better days. Thankfully, there's still a few houses in the surrounding area that I hadn't looted yet, so I made my way over on foot and hit those up. Normally, not something to really hang on, but I did manage to find a large hiking bag there with an extra 7 slots of storage space. From there, I hit the fire watchtower, grabbed another tent, watched some bandits get steamrolled by a horde of zombies, only to realize the opposite happened because they weren't actually bandits, they were coyote soldiers. No worries though, that's why we have a hunting rifle. Killing these guys landed me a 66-slot coyote backpack, another military intel laptop, and a gas mask. Looting their little roadblock netted me an MP5, and a couple more mags for guns I'll probably never find or use. On the flip side of that, I found a 4th fire axe at another warehouse to the west. Just continuing to add to the collection. Scratch that, not just a 4th axe, but 5 total axes. Throw in a flashlight for good measure, and today was a good day. At this point, I've managed to stockpile close to 100 rounds of 308 ammo. And with that ammo, I think it's time to take on my first boss battle. Now, objectively speaking, on these loot settings, fighting bosses is just not worth it. Aside from maybe the infestation ones, but the city mini-bosses with the wacky pun names are terrible in terms of loot. You get almost nothing from them aside from XP. But it does allow me to hit my first city, so that's the mindset I kept going into it with. Real quick, hold that thought, because you're about to watch me make such a boneheaded decision. You see those guys? It's another open world checkpoint event, but instead of repositioning and sniping them from a hill, I did my best Danny DeVito impression and started blasting. Now, the average viewer might see this and go, oh, I know what the problem was. You just shot in the middle of the street so all the soldiers can hit you. You have no cover. And while that's partially true, this is what I meant by boneheaded decision. If there's a point to be made here, it's that you should always clear the surrounding area before firing a rifle, especially if you don't have a suppressor. Moving on, just before reaching my first town, I made a quick pit stop at a bandit camp. This is a static camp on the map, and I feel like I've always managed to walk away from here with some solid gear. There's like 3 rushers, a turret, a few gunmen, but I have a secret weapon. A boulder.
It's not just a boulder, it's rock.
With the bandits fully wiped out, I pushed in and got started looting. While I didn't have much success initially, I did end up pulling a Valkyrie rifle off the leader. It's only got 1 mag, but I have a shit ton more back at camp just begging to be used. And not to mention the 3 I have on me from the coyote assault earlier in the day. Anyway, this is why I love the hunting rifle. I remember a few minutes ago when I was saying how fighting these mini-bosses isn't lucrative on extremely rare settings. This is what I meant. And this might be the first time I've seen bandits inside the confines of Lawrence Creek. It would have been an interesting dynamic to see them try to fight the boss before I snuck in, but they're on the other end of the town, so after looting the guy, I just pushed across and cleared out the bandits, leaving the town completely open for me to loot. I swear to God, if I don't find 3 nails here, what are we even doing? I did have a pretty solid moment here, kind of my good deed of the day. I fully committed to rescuing a friendly scavenger who trapped themselves in a house. Some might say this was all done in an effort to earn some good karma before looting the place, but I prefer to think of myself as strictly a hero who deserves everything. Thank you. Yes, I know, I am very brave. Sadly, there's still no nails, but I'd say this was a pretty good haul, all things considered. I think it's pretty obvious at this point, but I'm pretty much hard stuck on progression until I can find these 3 nails. I thought this would be the easiest part of the journey, but we're like a weekend and I'm still sitting on 1 singular nail. On the bright side, I do have the Valkyrie now, which means instead of slowly trying to clear POIs 1 or 2 zombies at a time, I can just do this. Utilizing this newfound method of mag dumping the zombie populace, I pushed up the map to Whitewood, where I encountered my second boss. Again, not really worth the ammo to kill him for his loot, but the town's way safer with him gone, so... Well, sorta. I mean, there's still an infestation that needs to be cleared out. It's not something that'll address my current nails predicament, but it did give me a chance to landing some more legendary weapons. Okay, love that. That's only a secondary infestation though, so not only is there still 1 more to clear out, but I've still got the primary and the boss, so vibes are still high, ladies and gentlemen. Vibes are still high. Bit of a closer call than I would have liked. I mean, I was literally down to my last few bullets, but Whitewood is mostly cleared now. Unfortunately, the boss didn't have much on him in terms of loot, and as you probably could have guessed from the secondary infestation, nothing. Alright, that's not entirely true. I got a mag for my FAL and a tactical hatchet that I'll never use, so I guess it's at least better than my first. But the primary infestation? Oh my god. 60 bullets that I can disassemble eventually, and a jacket. Jackpot, boys. It's so fucking stupid. Well, there's still an entire city of loot, with endless opportunities to find another 3 nails. Well, alright. Still no nails, but I did manage to load up on medical supplies at the hospital, looting over 20 medical crates and shelves. All of this culminated with me reaching the hospital rooftop and looting the high-tier crate to find... you get the point. I have one last trick up my sleeve, though. One last Hail Mary. The abandoned apartment building to the west of the Valley Station safe zone. I've had immense success on finding whatever I'm looking for here. It's like the perfect mystery box. I found random tools, axes, machetes, food, pretty much any type of supplies that you could possibly need can be found here. Time to roll the dice. Okay, no nails, but I did get 2 compasses, and some more food and other junk like cloth, rope, and window barricades. The next place I could think to hit was the mall. It's got my favorite boss pun with Paul Dart, and there's enough trash and cabinets to loot that I feel like I have a pretty solid chance to find some nails there. I don't have a ton of 5.56 ammo though, so instead of rushing in and using the Valkyrie to clear out the entire area, I hung back and relied on the hunting rifle to both smoke Paul Dart and wipe out all the zombies in the parking lot. Also, shout out bandits for meat shielding for me. Once the parking lot was cleared out, I pushed inside the mall using Molotovs to damage and weaken the zombies before finishing them off with the fire axe, Jack Torrance style. You're telling me I found a hunting rifle in a pile of garbage before I found 3 nails? In the mall gym garbage, no less. I feel like we dodged some literal bullets here. I do think it's a bit wild that I found like 8 axes throughout the course of this playthrough, literally double amount of the nails needed so that I can craft more nails. The high tier crate on the rooftop netted me some radiation pills and another MRE, so probably the best high tier crate I've looted so far. Check out this absolutely massive vault I came across in the north though. This is like 10 times the size of the vault I found over in the southeast. Here's where I found it at. Whenever multiplayer gets added, this is 100% gonna be where me and the boys base up. It's a bit too big for me as a solo player, but with 3 or 4 people, this would be perfect. Anyway, over the course of the night, I saved a dog, so, you know, feel free to give me all the praise for the hero that I am. Again. You guys want to see the map? Want to see how far I've traversed in the search for fucking nails? I started all the way in the top right of the map, right? At the lone cottage. From there, I ventured south, hitting up farms, camps, warehouses, all that fun shit. Once I hit the water, I moved west, and then looped up to the center of the map. I hit every POI in the bottom center of the map before pushing up the middle with the 2 cities, the mall, more warehouses, and POIs, before ultimately ending in the top center of the map with the roadside house. 43 separate POIs. 1 single nail. Found a GPS though. And while looting another bandit camp, I scooped up an AK so I can cosplay as the monkey bar guys later on. That'll be fun. Hello, old friend. I found this makeshift muffler in an old camp a while back and just realized I could have had it on the Valkyrie this entire time. It should go without saying, but I'm gonna say it. Suppressors are OP in Surroundead. You just stand right next to an entire horde of zombies. They don't even see you or give a shit about you. We've really come full circle with the rain, haven't we? Hey, nails. 2. Meaning we're only 1 short of finally being able to fucking progress. I also found this big-ass generator. Okay, a win's a win. We just need one more nail until I can go on like a 20-minute crafting spree. Anyway, my inventory is practically full. So instead of pressing on, I decided to begin the cross-map journey back to camp. Want to see something that I thought was cool? Remember the bandit camp that I raided and walked away with the Valkyrie from? Yeah, after you clear it, it disappears. Like, it's wiped off the map because you slaughtered all the bandits. I don't know, I thought that was cool. After making it back to camp and placing down all the extra furniture I'd accumulated, I waited until morning and ran back out to find most of the loot from these earlier areas had already respawned. This led to the moment that we've all been waiting for. Hold on, let's set the mood here. Black screen, soft fade-in of angelic singing. Okay, nice, and boom, slow reverse dynamic zoom over a shot of nails. Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, there have been 286 markers, over 6,000 words written in this script, and roughly 20 hours, 19.7 to be exact, of recording time between me finding nail number 1 and the final nails required to craft a simple workbench that unlocks literally every other crafting component in the game. I was so hyped over this that I canceled the rest of my plans for the day, turned around, and sprinted back to camp. Once back, I grabbed practically every material I had in storage and threw down a crafting workbench. Okay, I have a bone to pick with Survivor. You're telling me I need nails to craft the crafting workbench, when you need the crafting workbench to craft nails. I'm teetering on having an out-of-body experience right now. Gripe aside, I have so much scrap metal, so I got started crafting a fuck ton of nails and high-quality metal, as well as construction and weapons workbenches. Then, after pissing off the Lorex for a few minutes, I came back and threw down the disassembly bench. Alright, let's work through each of these one at a time. I did a full deep dive on the construction bench on the 100 Days video, where I bitched and moaned about balancing issues with these specific storage crates, where you can actually just craft a better crate for less materials than crates with less storage, which is, it just doesn't make a ton of sense, but to my knowledge, all of that has been addressed in 0.8, so I'm not going to get into it here, that'd be pointless. The construction bench has two modes, standard and modular. Standard is for things like wells, fences, crates, turrets, gates, all the cool shit, all the decorative pieces. And then there's the modular tab, which is all foundations and walls and windows and doorways and stairs. It's the actual building portion of the base building, and standard is like the cool props you decorate the base with. Now, listen, I'm not Mad Mavin. I can't build these massively elaborate bases that look absolutely gorgeous. But it is something I've been making a concerted effort to improve on. And what I'm trying to say is this is about to become a major focus for like 5 minutes. Moving over to the crafting workbench. Probably should have started here, but fuck it, we're already in. This one's got all the other workbenches to craft, along with the campfire that you can also craft with your bare hands. But more importantly, you've got lockpicks, nails, high-quality metal, rope, planks, some more medical supplies, and a car repair kit. Moving on to the weapons and equipment bench, this one's probably the most important of all of them, and usually goes hand in hand with the disassembly bench. Here you can craft things like repair kits, makeshift armor, a fishing pole, ammo, bombs, and bullet casings. Now, you don't actually need to craft the bullet casings, you'll get a shit ton of them for disassembling all the ammo you don't want to use. And speaking of disassembling, the disassembly workbench. This one is very simple. You put items up top, click disassemble items, and boom, results. You can then take those bullet casings and gunpowder, and run your happy ass over to the weapons workbench, where you can convert said bullet casings and gunpowder into the ammo of your choice, like 308 and 5.56 rounds for the hunting rifle and Valkyrie. To build a base though, I'll obviously need a shit ton of planks. But to make 2 planks, I'll need to refine 5 logs. Don't try to bring logic and math into this, just go with it. What I'm trying to get at is I spent like 20 minutes straight chopping down trees. By the time the sun rose, here's what I was working with. 470 logs may seem like a lot, But then you take a look at the requirements for a foundation, realize you need 4 logs, 4 planks, and 4 nails, or rather 14 logs per foundation, and 10 foundations is already over 25% of my total log haul. For reference, this is what 10 foundations looks like. Okay, I'm operating solely off of vibes for this entire build, so no real idea or rhyme or reason as to what's going where or why it's going there. I did find these small walls that I used on the walkway down to the actual base, which I thought was cool. I don't know. I figured for the rooms I can separate them by these little half foundations as like a 2x1 walkway. The biggest material hiccup I ran into was actually nails. It takes 5 scrap metal to make 5 nails, so I ended up burning through all of my scrap metal just trying to keep up with the nail supply. Case in point, after running out in like 10 minutes, I used some of my high-quality metal on a repair kit, fixed up the Humvee, and ripped it back onto the roads in search of more wrecked cars to loot. Instead, I found this. Another random open-world event. This crashed airplane normally comes with high-tier armor, tons of ammo, and multiple keycards. But on extremely rare loot settings, I was lucky to walk away with around 50 bullets, a level 0 keycard, and some armor that was worse than what I was already wearing. Outside of that, I looted some more metal from some burnt-out cars, hit and killed a wandering trader, allegedly, for cash that's ultimately pointless. Following that, I found an abandoned convoy and looted that for anything of value before ending the day just how it began. With chopping more trees. Heading into the second day of my base building grind, I added walls to most of the ground floor and threw down a set of stairs to add a second floor to the building before running out of materials yet again. At this point, I was starting to get a bit bored of the base building, so I thought I'd spice it up a bit by taking on another infestation. Yeah, that's totally the reason, and not at all because I got the Humvee ripped to shreds by a group of bandits directly next to what turned out to be an infestation. Regardless, this one's an apartment building with one secondary infestation on like the 3rd floor. I always love these because it's cool when they're all on the ground level and you can just shred through everything, but when you incorporate multiple levels where you can fall back on, where you have to use like the stairs as a choke point, it's just a small change of pace from the norm, and I really like that. Anyway, the primary infestation earned me 50 bullets. The boss was a slight upgrade with a tack light for the Valkyrie, and a few credits being pretty neat, if I had any use for him. Funny enough, the secondary infestation had better loot than the boss and primary combined, holding 2 level 3 keycards. Those keys will come in handy in a few minutes, but for now, I wanted to hit up a POI that I've been neglecting pretty much the entire playthrough. It's one of my all-time favorites, so welcome to the airfield. It's a tier 2 radiated zone, and I'd argue it's a more mid to mid-late game raid location to explore. First and foremost, it's loaded with radiated zombies and hellhounds that'll track you almost as soon as you walk through the front gate. What I like to do is kite them out front and train them around the wrecked vehicles as I work through them. Just, be careful for all the landmines, please. I know I could just climb up on top of a car and fight through all of them from complete safety, but I find that taking that approach and removing any threat of danger just kind of ruins the fun for me. Unlike pretty much every other POI in the game, actually, I think every boss spawn aside from the oil rig, there's 2 bosses here. Well, okay, hold on. There's 2 roaming bosses here. Tuck that away for a second. It'll come back up, I promise. But more importantly, fuck. They discovered the art of T-posing. We're doomed. Okay, 2 bosses. You've got General Romez with over 4,000 health, and his bodyguard with just under 4,000 health. With both of them killed, I'm free to loot the entire airfield, starting with the barracks. Each of the 4 barracks buildings has military crates, loaded pallets, and emergency ration crates to loot. This builds into the control tower, where the pallet crates are replaced with military and firearm lockers in crate piles. Sure, one of them had a singular military helmet in it, but for every 50 lockers like that, you do get a pile of crates with a mask that's 0.0002 points better. Maybe you're like me, and figured, oh, the high-tier POI specific special crate would be at the very top of the control tower. And just like me, you'd be wrong. That's because the hidden crate is actually locked away behind one of the closed-off hangars. The only downside? It requires a level 2 keycard to access. Speaking of the hangars, though, they're also filled with military lockers and crates that can be looted for weapons and ammo. At the very back of the airfield, you can find several crashed planes, carrying more military and emergency crates holding level 1 keycards, suppressors, and ammo. But in the middle of the airfield, while looting an APC, I found a level 2 keycard, which I immediately brought over to the locked hangar, revealing a 3rd boss. Remember when I was like, wait, there's 2 roaming bosses, but just hang a seat, it was coming back, told ya. Here's the haul from the airfield. Honestly, not bad. Probably one of the best hauls of the playthrough, if not the best when you factor in the tier 3 keycards. But we're not done yet, because there's still a small FOB of coyote mercenaries waiting to ambush me. But we've got the element of surprise, and a hunting rifle with a heavy scope on it. Alright, don't hate me for it, but I've entirely lost interest in base building. I found that I'm almost enjoying Surroundead way more as a nomad than by hunkering down and building large, elaborate bases. That being said, I've got one more challenge to check off the list. Using my Valkyrie, a hunting rifle, and an MP5, I disassembled all of my remaining ammo, converted it all to 9mm and 5.56. And from there, I grabbed some food and hopped in the Humvee. There it is. The oil rig. Time to get to work. Up on the 2nd floor of the oil rig, I found the locked security door, which requires a hidden code to open. Across from me on the other platform, though, dozens of zombies were beginning to stack up on the broken stairwell. So, I whipped out the MP5, tossed my last Molotov, and mad dumped the zombies from a distance. And not just the zombie shamblers and sprinters, but even the scientist. Not the Coldplay one, the one of the oil rig bosses. He came wandering over to see what all the commotion was about. Back to the security door, though. There's a random generated code sitting at the very top of the oil rig, so I pushed up 2 more flights of stairs, gunning down zombie after zombie, until reaching the top and finding the desk. 2006. Entering this code in the security door unlocks said door, revealing, whatever this is. Come to think of it, this looks like the South Park episode where they all have, like, the gay orgy to prevent the Goobacks from coming back. I don't know why that's what my mind went to, but it did, so now you have to picture it too. But moving on, upstairs is a whole-ass laboratory with tons of lootable containers that's 100% worth hitting up on normal loot settings. Speaking of laboratories, check this out. Wait a minute, hold on. Is that John Surroundead? Oh my god. With both bosses killed, I pushed up to the level 2 keycard room over on the second portion of the oil rig, where I found a bunch of dead Canadians. While looting the room though, I managed to snag a legendary katana, a fitting payoff to the fan-favorite raid location. Thank you all so much for watching. This was such a change of pace from how I normally play Surroundead, and it really threw me for a loop for most of the playthrough. I'd gotten so used to just purchasing whatever I needed whenever I needed it, that having to only rely on what I could find and craft, coupled with the extremely rare loot spawns, actually made this incredibly difficult, at least early on. Once I got the workbenches made and could craft my own ammo to finally start taking advantage of the legendary Valkyrie, the game started to feel much more normal in terms of progression. With that being said, I think this is a playstyle that'll continue to become even more enjoyable as updates continue rolling out. There isn't all that much to craft just yet in Surrounded, aside from more base building props, and since most of them weren't all that balanced prior to 0.8, it's not something I really felt like putting a ton of time and effort into. That's for a future video. But I'm excited for the day when you can craft spears, or even a bow and arrow, stuff like that. Regardless, here's the stat sheet. 861 zombie kills, 10 bosses slain, 70 humans, 7 animals, shut up PETA, and 5 infestations destroyed. When it comes to skills, I got them up to fitness level 5, strength 4, toughness 2, sneaking 2, first aid 1, marksmanship 4, reloading still 1 for some reason, thief 2, fishing 2, and scavenging 4. The best part, in my personal opinion, is the fact that I managed to hit fishing level 2, and actually almost fishing level 3, without ever even casting a line. That was all XP from boosts and reading magazines. Gotta love it. I know I glossed over it in the intro, but if you want to give this a shot for yourself, I'm running a permadeath playthrough with the loot settings taken from Nightmare mode. Everything else aside from loot rarity was left untouched. I'd recommend setting the loot rarity to just rare, though, and then maybe cranking up the zombies a bit, because it was a little disheartening to fight through bosses and infestations, only to have the reward be like 13 shotgun shells. Regardless, I had a blast with this, and I hope you enjoyed the journey. With that, I'm gonna get out of here. I appreciate you all. Go call a loved one. Thanks for stopping by.